I hope you guys are hungry, because I'm about to make a ton of scrambled eggs. Hello everyone, my name is Kibi, and we are here to talk about Chapter 18 of my Fire Emblem 8 0% Growths low turn count playthrough. Now Chapter 18 is a pretty interesting chapter in a few respects. For one, its enemy composition is unlike anything we'll ever see. It is a monster map, so we will see a few familiar monsters. However, a lot of those monsters are ones that we haven't seen before, and in fact the most prominent monster type in this map only appears in this chapter, in Chapter 18. So that's pretty interesting. The other interesting thing is that it's a route map. Routes in and of themselves, we're familiar with them, but the last route map we had was way back in Chapter 15, and in fact this is the last route map in the entire game. I'm a-okay with that, because routes can be kind of tough to LTC. But yeah, that's still kind of interesting. And even then, among the route maps, this one is kind of easy, as we'll see, because a lot of the enemies are just really trivial to kill, namely these Gorgon eggs. Now Gorgon eggs, as you can see, they're eggs, so they can't fight back, and you can just kill them easily since their HP is so low. They do have like 10 defense and resistance, so if you're really weak, you might not be able to kill them. But for the most part, it's pretty trivial to do. The one issue with Gorgon eggs is that they can't retaliate, they can't fight back, and so they can't suicide on enemy phase, which can be a real big trouble if you are trying to clear this chapter really quickly, because then you have to kill all these eggs on player phase, and that can be an issue since there are a lot of eggs, and you only have a limited amount of player phase actions. However, even for a 5-turn such as this, it's not too much of a concern. If you do give them enough turns to just sit around, as the name implies, since they're eggs they will hatch, and since they're Gorgon eggs they will turn into Gorgons, and we don't want that. Gorgons are very scary, and so we prefer to just kill them before they're able to hatch, and we are able to do that. However, there are a few Gorgons that are just naturally on the map itself, and Gorgons are ridiculous. They're really scary, they are extremely strong, and they deal magical damage. And of course, magic is really hard to resist. We don't have too many units with notable resistance, and so that leads to shenanigans such as Audholma Seth being reduced to 4 HP, and when you consider that Audholma boosts Seth's resistance by 5, you realize that he would have been one-hit KO'd if he wasn't wielding Audholma right there. And in fact, that's the one instance in the run where Audholma comes in useful, because we don't have the ability to barrier Seth beforehand since our other staff users are preoccupied. And so we go and just use Audholma, and that's pretty useful. Speaking of staff users, Mulder had to warp Cyrene and Saleh forward in the map, and now he's gonna rescue Gerik forward. Rescue is the staff that we got last chapter. It's a pretty important staff since it's a B-rank staff that functions just like warp, or at least somewhat like warp. We do have to get our staff user to the front and then rescue a unit forward, like you saw with Gerik. However, as long as we're able to do that, rescue is kind of functionally similar to warp, and so it being a B-rank staff also means that eventually guys like Saleh and Natasha will be able to use it. In fact, Natasha has B staves at this point, so she'll be able to use it next chapter. And the one issue with this particular clear of the chapter is optimizing our staff uses, because it can be kind of hard to efficiently clear this chapter, since there are a ton of places to go. You gotta split up your army, and so you kind of want to use warp and rescue to necessitate that. In fact, we've already used all the staff uses that we need to. We used the 1 warp on turn 1 and the rescue on turn 2, and 1 warp 1 rescue is all I needed in order to 5-turn this map. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, let's talk about the actual action going on. One interesting thing, as you can see, is that our chump brigade of Ducel, Ephraim, Erica, and Ford are all going down, and Noel sends a phantom down with them, only to land on a fire tile, which means that that phantom is gonna suffer a fiery death. That may be weird, however, the Phantom needs to go there in order to trigger a reinforcement zone. Yeah, those exist in this chapter, and they can be pretty annoying to deal with. We need to trigger that one on this turn in order to kill the spiders that reinforce next turn. We also see Gerik. He got S axes earlier in the chapter. In fact, I believe it was last turn. And that means that he is able to use Garm and just uses 8 movement to walk up to this Gorgon boss and exactly one-hit KO with Garm. That's wonderful, and also the reason why we need Garm in this chapter, or by this chapter, Garm Gerik, because otherwise we can't reach that boss and kill her easily. That boss is very powerful. As we've said before, Gorgons are scary, and she even has stones, so we can't even retaliate on enemy phase beforehand. So it's very nice that we're just able to cleanly one-hit KO, get her out of the way. Another concern is Saleh. As you can see, he will face these spiders, and I thought that Excalibur Saleh would have been pretty nice specifically for this enemy phase, since it would slightly increase his avoid versus these spiders that he has to dodge. However, funnily enough, we get S Anima on the enemy phase that Excalibur would have been useful. So that's just kind of funny. The other issue with Saleh is that he's a staff user. We need these staves. He still hasn't gotten it. And in fact, we need him to use Barrier twice in order to still get Beast Staves on time by chapter 20. And so we had him use it on turn 1 at the beginning of the chapter, and then he got rescued by Cyrene. And then on turn 3 right here, he used it since he wasn't in range of any eggs to kill. In general, if you're going to be doing any filler actions with your units, you want them to be doing them when they aren't able to kill eggs anyways. So for example, Saleh wasn't able to kill an egg last turn, so he could barrier instead, and now he can kill the eggs up on this cliff this turn. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind if you plan to deal with this chapter. One very important thing is that our good friend Gerik has some near broken weapons. Hand axe, silver axe, and then he breaks this Lance Reaver. And by breaking this Lance Reaver, he now equips a 8-use silver axe. And hey, all I'm saying is, there are 4 melee enemies. They all get doubled by Gerik. You might be able to tell what's gonna happen this enemy phase. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, something else that's also funny is that Molder, he needs a bit more effort to get to S Staves. And that actually means that Tethys, with her dancing, needs to help out Molder and get a few more staff uses so that he can wield Latona by endgame. That's kind of funny how that works. Tethys isn't able to dance Saleh since Saleh is far away, but she's able to help out Molder. And now our less than good units are able to deal with this section of the map right here. Ducel is equipped with a hand axe to fight back against that gargoyle who has a javelin. And since he's so bulky, he's able to not get attacked by the spiders, and they attack Ephraim instead, who's able to almost one-hit KO them with the Sigmund. He needs to dodge one of them, but other than that, it's very nice that we're able to get them out of the way. One notable member of that Chump Brigade is Ford. Ford has done quite literally nothing throughout this entire chapter, these past 4 turns, and it got to the point where I was considering fielding Natasha over him because I would have liked to get an extra staff use in previous runs, since she wouldn't reach Beast Staves normally at this point, and getting that extra staff use would kind of matter. However, you'll see that Ford needs to be around, he needs to do his thing, and also Gerik does his thing with the silver axe, breaking it and equipping a hand axe so that these Mogalls are too scared to fight him. And so they suicide onto Seth instead. And as you'll see, Seth has 11 HP, and then after the fire damage, he gets reduced to 1 HP. Scary. And now we are in position to finish this chapter. Erica actually comes in useful for Sieglund being able to kill that gargoyle right there after Ducel's chip. And now we have 3 mounted units available to kill these eggs. And most notably, Ford is able to do his 1 contribution and kill that last egg by using 2 javelin hits because he's too weak to kill the egg in 1 javelin hit. So yeah, Ford's a good unit, guys, I swear. But yeah, I mean, 8 movement was useful, I guess. It was necessary to reach that egg in time, so how bad could he really be? And in general, we are able to kill a lot of eggs this turn, just position ourselves well. Another funny thing is Molder. Molder is able to get another staff use, however he needs to, after a dance, be able to kill one of the eggs. And I thought he could just kill an egg, like, you know, eggs aren't tough to kill. However, he actually needs Hellfire in order to kill that one egg in his range. Any other tome is too weak to do it. And so, you know, I needed to buy an Hellfire in chapter 16 way back in order to use once in this chapter, because obviously Molder's not going to see any more combat in this run. And I mean, this is it. You just finish killing up these eggs. They do give a ton of experience, so if I were interested in training a combat unit, I could potentially bring them to this chapter. But obviously I'm not, because this is a 0% growths run and an LTC. So yeah, we're not too much into that. I guess Saleh has a 1-use Hellfire tome that just might be useful. Unlike Excalibur, we never use that in this run. That's kind of funny. He also never used Out Homa or other legendary weapons. Sirene and flying in general ended up being quite useful since cliffs are kind of hard to work around. You can just fly over them if you're a flying unit. And with all of that, chapter 18 is cleared in, what, 5 turns? Yeah, 5 turns, 1 warp, 1 rescue. I'll see you guys next time. Have a nice day.